Okay, let's talk about questions you should ask yourself before you start any business. Hi, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. Jonathan Mills Patrick with you today. Getting close to the end of 2020. My planning for 2021 is going fantastic. I've already got wheels in motion and it feels really, really good. Today, we're going to talk about some questions I think new entrepreneurs in particular should be asking themselves, but anyone that is starting a new venture, I always have three questions that I ask people. Now, that's whether they're joining my team, whether they are starting their own business, whether they want to enter my mentorship program that I talked about in a previous video. Uh, I always ask these three questions because they help me understand the assumptions that the person has for the business, and it helps me understand, more importantly, their expectations for that business. So the very first question I always like to ask, actually, let me pause you there for a second. Now, the first two questions help me with those assumptions and things. And then the third question really brings it home. So I want you to pay attention to the order of these. I ask them in a specific order, and it's for a reason. Okay. So the very first question I always ask is, how many hours per week are you willing to put into this endeavor? Now, I have seen people start businesses that had less than 5 hours a week. Some have had 10, 15 hours a week they could devote to it. So maybe part-time. I've done that in the past myself. Some people can go all in and devote all their time. So right now we still have a lot of people who are unfortunately and sadly are unemployed. They can spin up new businesses on this right now and kind of get them going, and they can commit to them full time. Some people leave corporate jobs and go and start their business and go all in full time. Whatever that choice is for you, if you only have a few hours, I've seen plenty of people become successful in business with just a few hours to devote. Now, the more hours you have to devote to your business, obviously the better chances you have for creating activity and then being successful. But plenty of people have had couple of hours a week really that they could devote to their business, and they've had some success. Now, if you've only got a few hours, the key is that you put those hours into the right activities, right? And that's not what I'm here to talk about today, but keep that in mind. If you've only got a few hours, you can be successful. It's just about where you put the activity. But where this question leads people is to think about the amount of effort they're willing to put into the business. How many hours per week are you willing to put into the business? And so it causes them to think about all the things that they have been doing. So I have had to do this myself. So if you've watched my channel, I'm a huge gaming fan. Matter of fact, this morning, that's what I've been doing. I've been playing some Destiny. And that is time I could have been putting into my business. But before I played Destiny, I was doing a business activity. I was preparing a blog post on this exact topic that's going to show up on my website. And so, I could have been devoting that hour of Destiny to other business generating activities. Something else you have to think about when you're thinking about how many hours per week can you put into your business is, how many hours am I willing to put into my business? What activities am I willing to set aside to focus on my business? So that is the first question I want you to think about, and jot it down. Make some notes. Get out a piece of paper, get something you want to write on, and write how many hours per week you're willing to devote. Then I want you to think about the second question, which is, how many months am I willing to do this without looking back, without measuring my success, and without making any money at all? Now, that one might shock you. How many months am I willing to do this without looking over my shoulder and trying to figure out how much success I've had, just heading forward and maybe not having made a single dime? How long am I willing to do that before I'll throw in the towel and say, forget it? Now, this is where the rubber starts to meet the road. I want you to be brutally honest with yourself. You got to ask yourself this question. You have to be brutally direct and honest with yourself. Listen, if you know that you're only willing to put in a couple of months and no money coming in, and maybe even spending some money before you're looking for success or some return on that investment of your time and possibly your money, then you just need to know going into that, right? You just need to admit to yourself, it's going to be a couple of months before and then I'm going to start expecting some results. The longer you can give yourself before you start expecting those results, the better your chances for success. A lot of people in business have been successful because they simply didn't quit. They just didn't stop. They went on and on and on and on. Now, I could sit here and bore you with the details of how some of the success I have had comes because I have spent, my wife would tell you, she talks about this all the time. I have spent years, years upon years upon years, staying up late at night, not playing video games when I wanted to, but grinding away at my business and learning new skills. And that is what got me to today with the businesses and the ventures that I have and even my career. So how many months are you willing to go at this before looking for results? The longer you can give yourself, the better. So now we're starting to add up, right? We're thinking about how many hours per week can I put in? How many months am I willing to do this before I expect any results whatsoever? Setting your own expectations and assumptions and being realistic about those with yourself. So if you say 12 months, Jonathan, I'm willing to give it a full year before I'll even think about any results. I love it. That's a great result. That shows some dedication and some enthusiasm. Now, the last question I want you to ask yourself, we're building up to this last question because the amount of hours you'll put into your business and the amount of months and time that you'll do it without expecting results, oftentimes what I've learned leads to this last question, which is, how much money are you expecting to make? Again, I ask these questions when I work with entrepreneurs. It's on the mentorship program application that I have. By the way, I'll be selecting the entrepreneur for the first quarter very, very soon. As I think about that question, how much money do you really want to make? The question on the application starts at, someone just wants to make a few $1,000s a year, which is great. I mean, if you're honest with yourself, most people would love to have 200, 300, 400, 500 extra dollars per month, right? If you look at the statistics, it's a pretty old and used statistic. You've probably heard this by now. Most families don't have $400 set aside for an emergency. That's okay. I'm not knocking people who are in that position. I'm saying that having a business, a side hustle, either part-time, full-time business, whatever it is, would hopefully provide for you those $400-500 extra dollars per month. Maybe you expect to make thousands of dollars per month in your business. Maybe you expect to make six figures in your business. And some people, it's on my questionnaire, and most of them have said this, want to be millionaires with their business. Now, you would think that that would be the answer I'm looking for people when I work with them. And that's not entirely true. And the reason is if you look at it statistically, most people are not going to be millionaires with their business. Most people, most entrepreneurs actually statistically just reproduce the amount of income that they could be making in the corporate life. Now, this is statistical, so bear with me. Don't give up on me yet. I'm going to explain. But most people just go on and maybe create a lifestyle for themselves, and they work for themselves. They get to creatively do what they do. And they make, I think the statistic is about $57,000 a year as an entrepreneur or as a freelancer. Now, that may be more money than you're making right now. That may be less money than you're making right now. So why am I saying I'm not always looking for people, personally, looking for people who want to be millionaires, right? Don't I want to be a millionaire? Don't I want that kind of success? I think it's great to shoot for the stars. I absolutely do. So I love the enthusiasm that comes with people saying, look, I'm going to go into business. I'm going to give it as much time as it takes, and I'm going to make millions. Otherwise, it's just not worth it. But I want you to be realistic about it too. What will happen is if you're expecting to make millions and you're only going to put in a few hours a week, and you're only willing to do that for a few months before you expect to make millions, you're going to fail. And that's why I build these questions in order, those 1, 2, and 3, to that point. Because if you're willing to put in 10 hours a week and you'll do about, your personality is to try really hard, give it all you've got, but it's only going to last for 3 months and you're going to quit. If you're not a millionaire, then you're in trouble, right? Because that's not likely what's going to happen. So let's back that down a little bit. What if it's, 10 hours a week, 3 months, you're willing to give it everything you've got before you'll look at any results, and you're expecting to make $5,000. Now, is that a bit more realistic? Maybe that $5,000 is going to lead you toward being a millionaire, right? But I want you to think about these questions and be honest with yourself, because if you're not willing to give it the right amount of time for the right amount of months and a realistic expectation of your earnings, especially early on, then you're setting yourself up for failure. And being an entrepreneur is going to be a very, very bad experience. So anyways, I hope that information helps. Till next time, I hope you find your voice. Have a great day.